Welcome to Power Up, the Uptime podcast focused on the new, hot off the press technology that can change the world. Follow along with me, Alan Hall, and Itasaur's Phil Totaro as we discuss the weird, the wild, and the game-changing ideas that will charge your energy future. All right, Fabricare Canada. Phil, our friends up in Canada have been working on some tools for their de-icing systems.
Yes, and what's kind of really interesting and novel about this is they developed a system that allows them to kind of punch holes into some of the bulkheads and ribs along the length of the blade so that they can actually install this kind of, if you're not familiar with Fabricare, they have this kind of fabric tube that runs the length of the blade and circulates hot air to be able to de-ice the blade. But in order to install it and retrofit it on older blades, you have to have a way that you can kind of, drill a hole through some of the bulkheads and the ribs in the blade. And so their latest patent that came up in our technology trend watch and research this week indicates that they've developed a new system that could even be kind of remote operated by a little rover drone that they could kind of send down the length of the blade and have this thing kind of drill out the bulkheads.
And that tool can be used for other things besides this de-icing system, right? If you putting holes in blades allows access for a lot of other things to go up in a blade, right?
Including repairs on a lightning conduction system, for example, or just running any other things that you might need to down the length of the blade. You may need to install some aero updates that would require some work on the internal shell or the inside of the shell of the blade, and so this would also facilitate that. So it's pretty clever.
The technology they describe in their patent is focused on Senvion blades, but this could be used on almost any wind turbine.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. The reason that they did that with Senvion is because they actually are working with Energica up in Quebec, which, if you're not familiar, the Energica's independent research organization that actually has two Senvion turbines at their facility, where Fabricare, through this partnership with Energica, has actually tested this technology. So it's pretty great.
Next up is iTrek from the Netherlands, and they have a offshore blade installation technique or tool that they developed, and it looks like a praying mantis almost that grabs onto the tower, and then you take the blade on the back of the praying mantis up to the hub and kind of plug in the blade that way into the hub.
What's kind of unique and interesting about this innovation is what they're doing is they've created a system where you can actually have this crane structure on the service and operation vessel. The vessel comes up to the turbine and the foundation, kind of clamps on, and then deploys this railing system that'll clamp up to the upper part of the tower. And then you can have, the blade, which is, in this clamp, run up this little track that's kind of, a removable track. And then, like you said, it'll spin the blade around and orient it in the right position in order to get it installed and hooked up into the hub. So, of all the ideas I've seen about having this kind of construction or service and repair type of system, this is actually one of the more clever ones. But keep in mind that this company in Holland that's developed the technology, this is just a patent at this point. They are trying to, get somebody interested in prototyping this and actually commercially developing it. So we hope that they're successful with it because this actually is not only pretty clever, but it's something that's probably a little easier to implement and safer to implement than some of the other concepts that we've seen.
And we're going to move down to Spain now, Phil, with Breedy Marine Time. And they have a patent that just come out which talks about building a floating structure, a floating wind turbine structure but it's a series of walls that get assembled into like this triangular shape. And you want to describe this a little bit?
It's kind of modular in the sense that they can do something quayside where they can assemble, whatever the structure is, and with the levels of buoyancy that they need for the size of turbine they're going to install. They can assemble this quayside and then kind of bolt it together as it's kind of going in the water, and then you can take, with your quayside crane and plop the turbine kind of fully assembled on this thing and then float it out. So it's pretty clever in terms of what they're doing, and then the way they've designed it, it can either serve as a moored floating structure or kind of like almost a tension like platform where you would have different legs, tethered legs basically coming off the bottom of this thing. This is kind of a very early stage innovation at this point, and we hope that they can pursue it. There's obviously a lot of different, floating structure designs and concepts out there already, but this is one that actually has some promise based on the modularity of it, and the fact that you could actually assemble it quayside with whatever kind of structure you needed to be able to assemble for something that's purpose built for a particular turbine model.
Last but not least, Phil, the motorized ice cream cone. Hey, this patent technology needs to be applied rapidly because, from based on what the sketches show, this is pretty cool.
All right, so this isn't strictly speaking wind energy, but we're gonna try to find some of these fun patents that people have come up with over the years. So this one, it's real interesting. There's actually basically the premise of it is you can have your ice cream in a little cup on top of your cone, and the cone has a little gear mechanism in it. So that sorry, I can't even get through this without laughing. But it'll automatically rotate your ice cream so that you can just stick your tongue out and lick, and you don't have to hand rotate your ice cream cone and worry about the ice cream dripping down on your hands. So I've seen lots of things that are over engineered in my time. This is probably one of them. But this is also, a pretty clever idea. I don't know that the world needs this, Alan.
There's upsides and downsides to this, Phil. One is that you don't have to do anything to heat your ice cream, I guess, besides hold it. Downside is you need a battery, right? So without the battery, this thing doesn't go. So didn't seem to have a USB port to charge it. USB port to charge it. That's the next patent, a USB chargeable ice cream cone. There you go, like everything else in the world. You think the Europeans are gonna make us use a USB-C or a USB lightning cable, huh? Which one is it?
USB-C. No, they've already decided. Everything's gotta be standardized.
Well, there you have it. There's 3 really interesting wind patents and 1 crazy patent for you this week. Thanks, Phil, for bringing these ideas to the table.